Hi, this is Byron Stripling coming to you, but it's not on a Sunday. This is actually a pre-recorded show that we're happy to and excited to share with you. It's the Columbus Youth Jazz Summer Workshop, and I'll be joined by Bobby Floyd, by Reggie Jackson, by Quan Howell, and you'll get to experience what we did and what we talked with the kids from that program. We talked a little bit about learning, but there's a historic message in that also. That's the message of how people took their own stories, which is what they were working on all week, and they put them through their horns. And this is what jazz did. And so we explained specifically how oppression and discrimination and all those things worked its way into jazz, blues, gospel, soul. But what we want you to know, it's all filled and imbued with love. So like the song says, reach out and touch somebody's hand and make this world a better place if you can. That's what we tried to do on this one, and we hope that you'll enjoy it.
gentlemen, welcome to the last day of the very first Columbus Jazz Arts Group virtual summer camp. We have enjoyed seeing your faces and hanging out and talking about jazz. We've had a very fun week with you, and like Zach said, it's been kind of focused on stories, right? Every time you pick up your horn, every time you sit behind the piano or drums, you pick up your bass or guitar, you have a chance to tell a story to someone. We've enjoyed the stories of inspiring local musicians like Dr. Milton Ruffin, like Dwight Adams. We've talked about the story that the blues tells. We've talked about scratch the surface of the story of women in jazz with Jess Sneeringer. Ryan Hamilton came in and talked a little bit about the stories behind some of the great jazz recordings of history. And today we have who I think is one of the finest storytellers that we have in the country today. Our leader of the Columbus Jazz Orchestra, Byron Stripling. When he picks up his trumpet, you hear not just notes, not just scales and chords, but you hear the feeling and you hear the story of the music. Byron has brought along with him some other musicians that are world class, the great Reggie Jackson on drums, and of course the legendary Bobby Floyd on the Hammond B3 organ. So they're going to talk to you a little bit about jazz, a little bit about what their story is. So would you take a moment to welcome to the room Byron Stripling and his group.
The gypsy woman told my mother before I was born, you got a boy child's coming. He's gonna be a son of a gun. He's gonna make pretty women jump and shout. Then the world's gonna know what it's all about, 'cause you know that I'm him. Everybody knows I'm him. Hey, I'm your hoochie coochie man. Everybody knows I'm a him. I got a black cat born. I got a mojo too. I got the Jean the Conqueror, and I'm gonna mess with you. I'm gonna let these pretty women's lead me by my hand. Then the world's gonna know I'm your hoochie coochie man, 'cause you know that I'm him. Everybody knows I'm a him. Yeah, I'm your hoochie coochie man. Everybody knows I'm a him. Yes, they do. Oh, yeah. The seventh hour, on the seventh day, on the seventh month, on the seventh year, He was born for good luck. Now can't you see? I got $700. Now don't you mess with me, because you know that I'm him. Everybody knows I'm a him. Yeah, I'm your hoochie coochie man. Everybody knows I'm a him. Whoa, 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 yeah. I can hear your applause. I can hear your applause. We thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get right into the little educational part of this, and it's going to be deep, but I have to get deep right away to get serious. I want to tell you about, well, the first song we did was by Cole Porter. It was called, what is this thing called love? That's what that was called. And we always like to open with something that's a little brighter in tempo. It's a great song. Charlie Parker's version is great. The one with strings is great. Listen to that. But on the second tune, we played the blues, and we know that you can't lose with the blues. But what we know in jazz and in music is that the blues is a way to express ourselves. And in the case of the black tradition, as we think about oppression, and if you think of coming up through history, we've got things that people are dealing with back then, especially black people, and they are prevalent now. I'm talking about economic inequality, the ability to just get a job and support you and your family. Everybody's dealing with that back in the 20s and 30s when blues was starting to really get popular. And healthcare and access to healthcare. It's possible back in the day for you not to have healthcare, and so you couldn't get well enough to live a long, productive, happy life. We have discrimination. We have disenfranchisement. We've got lynching. So between like the 1800s and all the way up to like 1950, there were 3,500 lynchings of black men and women in the United States. The music that I just played is a reflection of all that. In terms of a lynching, you could be lynched as a black man for looking at a white woman. I told you I was going to get deep. The judgment came from the lynch mob. They were the judge and the jury, and they would make that decision, and all of a sudden you would see people hung. The interesting thing about lynching was that people would show up for it like it was like a picnic. They'd bring their lunch and stuff, and they would watch a black guy hanging, or a woman hanging in there on a tree. Fingers and toes were cut off in front of the crowd. They were then sold for souvenirs. And after, it's even deeper than that, but that would get too weird for you. After the lynching happened, they would publicly burn the body. And all this, you can see pictures of it. There are pictures that people sent around as postcards of lynchings. And on the back of one of the postcards I recently saw, somebody sent to their friend and said, "This is the barbecue we had last night." What that was the dehumanization that you see, and what we've seen and what we've begun to observe. An article in the USA Today said, this was in June of this year, that the assassination publicly of George Floyd was a public lynching, only we observed it from our homes. That's why artists create protest songs. One of them you will hear tomorrow. We ask you to, if you'd like to tune in to Facebook, and we're doing a show called Songs of Hope and Healing, along with Crucial Conversations. I'm giving you some of the crucial conversations. And so a 20th century lynching, one that happens now, is very similar to what went on back then. So how did the artists come in? They wrote songs like Strange Fruit, and if you want to take note of that and write that down, that was performed by the great Billie Holiday. We will have Sydney McSweeney sing that for us tomorrow at 7 o'clock on Facebook. You'll get to hear that show. Hoochie Coochie Man. was a reflection of what was going on at the time. People write songs based upon what their emotions are and what they feel at that time in history. So if you listen to what the song I just sang, he always says at the end, "I'm your hoochie coochie man." And in some ways, he's talking about his prowess, his superiority of what he could do to anybody he wanted to do it to, if you will. So that's why he wrote that song. There's also another song called "I Got My Mojo Working." It's the same thing. So what a black artist was doing is that at that time was telling people, I can do what I want to, but it's the chance for the artist to subtly give a message to the oppressor through his music and through his art that you can't mess with him. Now, the way in jazz that we've seen is that people have their own way of expressing themselves. For instance, if I were to ask Bobby Floyd to play a great gospel, well, it's really an old church hymn. And can you play a little bit of "How Great Thou Art"? You know, is that the one? Is that the name of that one? Da 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 da. Can you play a little bit of that, just like the way kind of real, like you would do if you were playing a hymn or something like that? That's beautiful. Now, but what if you did that and you did your thing on it? Like you put Bobby Floyd on that and you played it your way. What would that sound like? Finish it off like that. That was pretty good, wasn't it? Y'all didn't like that? Nobody liked that? I'm sorry. So that's doing your own thing. Is taking like, because Christianity was introduced to the slaves when they came in as slaves. But they're like, yeah, y'all got some nice hymns, but we'd like to do it our way. And so then people came on the scene. First it was people like Thomas A. Dorsey, but then people like Mahalia Jackson came in. And when she would sing, she would moan, she would grunt, she would stomp her feet, she would clap her hands. And for some people, they felt like this was blasphemy. But for her, she said, well, there's a psalm that says, "Clap your hands, O ye people." And she wanted to do anything she could to get the expressiveness of what she felt out of her. So this is the basis of where the beginnings of jazz, because it's based upon the same premise. First, we have guys in the Mississippi Delta, which, by the way, they had more lynchings than any place in the world. They come singing the blues. The blues gets into gospel. Actually, gospel's probably starting first, spirituals. Because the spirituals spoke, again, of redemption and getting out of the oppression. So my grandmother used to say, "I've been buked and I've been scorned. I've been talked about, shows you born." But she says also, she would say, "Sometimes I look back and wonder how I got over." So she would use all those songs, and black folks would use all those songs to sing their way out of a depression. Because for them, there was no therapy to go to. So your therapy was singing, right? And when you feel down and out, sing a song. And that's why we exist as artists. We come here to imbue you with the spirit of all this great music. And we deliver that to you, hoping that it will be a change of heart to you if you hear the story. This is how powerful what you guys do and you study every day, that it has the power to move people. And that's why in the civil rights era, whenever, like if you think about the Montgomery bus boycott, and you should all study that boycott. But if you think about that particular boycott, it was music that moved that along. And before King, they used to have church every night when they had that boycott. Let me just quickly remind you what that is, and then we'll move on. The Montgomery bus boycott is all the black folks said, look, you're making us sit on the back of the bus. All right, we're going to hit you economically. So we're going to stop riding the bus, which meant that people had to walk 1 hour to work rather than take the bus. But they also created a carpool system amongst those people in Montgomery where they were picking up each other so they didn't have to pay for that. So you were either walking or you were carpooling with a friend. And then you'd go protest all day. Now you've seen that in this community right here. Because when people are oppressed, the Constitution says that you have the freedom to assemble, right? I tried to get Mark to recite the Constitution to me, but he didn't do it. So, but you have that freedom to protest. But protesting is hard. Martin Luther King, when he would preach every day, before they would go march, he said, we're going to sing for half an hour before I say anything. Because it's the singing that moves the marches. And I firmly believe that when people were marching, they had a song in their heart as they did that. This is the power of music, and I want you to leave these few days of working with it is really realizing the basis and the foundation of where jazz came from, but the power it has and still has. And that's why John Coltrane gave us A Love Supreme, because all the marchers are not asking for retribution. They're just asking for justice. All those people out there, they don't want anything. They just want the same equality. So when people say reparations, yeah, give me the right to vote. It's already enshrined in the Constitution. So don't close the polls at 6 o'clock when you say they're going to close at 9 o'clock. That's all we're asking. Just do what you said you were going to do, and music has the power to deliver that. Also, what we hear in music, and I'm going to ask Quan to come up, and we'll introduce you to him, is thankfulness. Because what we know is that if you have gratitude, you can never be sad. And black folks, their whole thing is all about gratitude. It's always about thank you, thank you, thank you. Because when you look at where you could have been and when you see others, you want to help them, but you're also thankful. Thankful for what you've been provided. You talk about improvising. My mother was always so thankful because we'd look in the kitchen cabinet and I didn't think that there was nothing in that cabinet. And she'd come out with some beans and rice and some potatoes, and she'd find the cheapest cut of meat and she'd throw it in there, and then she'd cut up some collard greens. All of this is cheap food, but it's good food for you. Right? When you get those collard greens, that's some of the best stuff. As long as you keep all that meat out of there, you're gonna stay healthy. You keep that grease out of there, you're gonna be healthy. But the improvisers are the mothers and the fathers, and your it's right in your families too. That when you didn't know it, your parents didn't have a nickel in their pocket, but they found something to put together. That's improvising, and that's what the improviser does. He takes what he has and he makes something of it. So let's get back to thankfulness. Quan, I'm going to ask you to come up, and I want everybody to meet as he comes up, one of the great singers of all time. And he happens to live in this city. And I was talking about thankfulness, and he will do the first verse of this song. And think of yourself when I get chills when you sing it, because the words they really speak to where we are now. And one of the words that gets me is to say, it could have been me outside with no clothes, no food, no shelter. I get chills when that, because that could be me in a millisecond.
Yes.
That could be any of us.
Yes.
And so we stand in thankfulness. And this is the music that we hear when we hear jazz. When you hear Ella Fitzgerald, when you hear Louis Armstrong, when you hear Miles Davis, when you hear Dizzy Gillespie, all of that thankfulness, again, not retribution, not revenge. It's the John Coltrane Love Supreme. It's the Ella Fitzgerald singing about love. Please do a little bit of this song for us.
Tragedies are commonplace, all kind of diseases. People are slipping away, economy's down, people can't get enough pay. As for me, all I can say is thank you, Lord, for all you've done for me. Folks without homes, people are living in the streets. The drug habit, some say, just can't be beat. Now, your muggers and your robbers, no place seems to be safe. You've been my protection every step of the way. So I want to say thank you, Lord, for all you've done for me. 'Cause it could have been me outdoors and no food and no clothes, or all alone without a friend or just another number in a tragic end. But you didn't see fit that none of these things be. Every day by your power, you keep on keeping me. I want to say thank you, Lord, all you've done for me. Yeah, yeah, it could have been me outdoors, no food and no clothes, or all alone without a friend or just another number in a tragic end. You didn't see fit, let none of these things be. Every day by your power, you keep on keeping me. I want to say thank you, Lord, for all you've done for. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your love, thank you for your power, thank you for protection every hour. Thank you for your love, thank you for your power. Thank you for protection. Every. Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank
That was good. Y'all need to unmute. I need to hear that applause. Unmute for a second. I need to hear that applause. Yeah.
Amen.
Ooh. Thank you guys. Thank you. So you just heard a magnificent singer, Quan, will you talk to us for a second? Sure. So what I wanted to ask Quan, and then we'll pass the mic around to some of the other people. You've had a great experience these last few days. One of the things is when you're working in a group like this, the vibe feels good, but then you go back to your individual places. You got to keep in contact with each other, and now we know how to do it virtually. Yeah. So we have to keep in touch. I think I learned how to play, and by the way, we are not here to give any religious thing to you. We're just telling you the realities of our particular lives and how we learned how to. So I learned how to play the trumpet. My first gig happened to be in church because that's the only people that wanted to hear me. Nobody else was interested in hearing me. And that's when I learned how to sing, was in church. And so as you're looking in the future for venues, to think about that, but you can also now play gigs in your driveway in social distance. You have to always realize that you're entrepreneurs and you have to create ways to play for yourself. The most important thing for all y'all to do is to keep playing, and you have to figure out ways to motivate yourselves. So I recommend you can go to, if you go to church, that's a place. Your driveway is another place. You have to create opportunities. I just want Quan to speak and tell us where you learned how to sing. What did it happen? Did you take voice lessons? Did you not? You had an amazing career singing with the Sounds of Blackness, which was one of the great groups that was at a great positive message, too.
Right.
And I always feel that when you sing, there's a positiveness of it that I want you on my gigs, and this is, I'll let you speak. I've talked too much. You have to realize when you on the gig, are you the light or are you the darkness? So when you walk into the room, are you ever vibe? Does everything suck? Oh, man, how come we got to do this? We got to play this song again? Da, 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 da. Are you that guy? Or are you the guy when you walks in and the room gets a little bit brighter? And they're like, oh, there's Quan, or there's Bobby Floyd, that's this band. It's like you're happy to see them because they want to play. They come to play. They want to play. And the last one is they want to learn. And so we know that to all great leaders in this, they're all learners. And so you should become obsessed with learning about this. You ever talk with Reggie about the drums, and you're going to get a mouthful. You know, he's going to tell you all about the drums and all the individual drums. So I apologize. So, Quan, tell us about where you learned how to sing, where you got your experience, how did you get better, how do you keep learning?
Well, the interesting thing is, not the interesting thing, what we all learn to sing is in church, of course, for myself. And it was a great experience because my family sang in the church I grew up in. They were the church choir, and so in private lessons in our great-grandfather's house, it kind of was like, you better sing this and sing it right. And so with that in mind, that created the discipline to want to be better. And one of the things for me, and I use this from a prime example because she's worked so frequently with the jazz orchestra, and she's worked with you on a lot of gigs, is Carmen Bradford, the great Carmen Bradford. It's always good to learn from other artists. You should never be in a position where you think that you're so great that you can't learn from each other. And it was so cute how she told me, this was the first time I got to sing with a big band, right? So I'm a church kid, just, just doing all these little runs over the church, you know, over the big band and whatever. And we was talking, we were at the Westin Hotel. She said, you know, sometimes you don't have to always do a whole bunch of running in between while the other instrumentalists are playing. And she didn't directly say it to me, and I said, you know what, that's a great idea, so I assume that you're talking to me. And I got so tickled. And so I did take that, and I didn't, you know, I wasn't upset because I'm one of those singers, even singing over, 25 years, I'm always in, and that's telling my age, I'm always in a place that I always want to learn to be a better singer and to be very relevant to the times, because a lot of singers get stuck in their era and that they don't develop with time. And so then people kind of forget them as a singer. So she was one of my great instructors that she helped. Another great voice that helped me was, of course, George Baird. George I call George my father. So he'll call me over. We'll meet twice a month. Since COVID, we hadn't had a chance to meet. So we meet like twice a month, and I sit in the house. I have to listen to all these songs I've never heard, because what he does is he wants to widen my music palette. And so he thinks I'm gonna be offended when I'm sitting there just soaking in everything, like, oh my God, I ain't never heard that version of that. And he told me something I've never forgot. He said, just because you can do it doesn't mean you have to do it all the time. And so I take that as I approach in my gospel, my R&B, and in my jazz. Because, you know, with black singers, I'll be honest, we'll get emotional, get excited, and baby, we'll just go for that thing totally. And so the older I've gotten, I've just kind of refined myself as a better singer and always look to continue to develop and grow. I hope I answered your questions, Chris.
Absolutely. You won't hear monitor. I want Reggie to speak to that too. Where did you learn how to play, and what do you do to keep going, especially when we don't have that inspiration? But class is getting ready to be over, so everybody got to carry through all the way to September. So what did you do?
Well, thank you. For me, oh yeah. Hopefully this will be a little better for you guys. Like Quan and Byron, I grew up learning how to play in church. My whole family plays and or sings an instrument, and from there, like Byron was speaking to before about, just trying to always be a student. In high school, my high school had a internship program, so I actually called the owner of Columbus Percussion and asked if I could have my internship there. And because I wanted to learn every aspect of drumming, the instrument, and like Byron said, he might be in trouble because he gave me this mic. I literally could talk your ears off about the drums, from not just drummers and styles of drumming, but also, the types of heads, the companies that make the heads, the materials that they make the heads, the bearing edges of the drums, the woods that drum manufacturers use. I'm going to try and control myself. But my point is, to piggyback on what Byron was saying, that's what you want to do, especially in this time. Dive into learning as much as you can about music, and not just the music, but like Byron was talking about earlier, learn let's say if it's jazz, or if it's Brazilian music or Afro-Cuban music, learn about the history, learn about the culture. What do those people eat? Because all of that has impact on the music that they create. Like Byron was saying, a lot of the blues that was all created at a time when people were feeling a certain way. So the only way you can really start to learn that is to learn as much about those people and what it is they were going through. So learn as much as you can. That's probably the best thing I could say.
We're going to get Bobby to answer the same question after I wipe off the mic.
Okay, well, I really don't have all that much more to say after Quan and Reggie. Not that they were talking a lot, but, and I didn't mean it that way, but, but I went through the same channels that they went through when it comes to learning how to play. I grew up playing in church. That's where I got a lot of my talent from. But I wanted to take it a step further, and learn all the what we call legit, like all the academic related aspects of music. So, I decided to study. Of course, with the help of my mom and dad, because sometimes I wanted to go out and play basketball. But I was always interested in playing piano and organ. So, like Quan was talking about how he went over to George's house, and he ended up in situations where, he would sit and listen to other people sing and play, and be exposed to different styles of music. How that opened up his mind, and I think that's a very good example of how I think you should be. You should be open-minded, be willing to learn any and everything about the music, not just playing, but every aspect. And that's what I tried to do all my life, is not only play piano, play organ, not only play in church, but, listen to all the great jazz musicians. I did that all my life. Thelonious Monk, Oscar Peterson. You can Google some of these people and learn a lot about the history of jazz. So I did that when I was young. After graduating from high school, I went to college, to further my music learning. So it's good to just stay open-minded, learn as much as you can about, and this is like they were saying, this is a great time to do it because we have a lot of free time on our hands. I try to take advantage of this time and not be negative about, we have to stay in the house and there's nothing to do. I'm in my piano room a lot. This is a great time to be creative and practice. If you're playing an instrument, even if you're not playing an instrument, learn how to play. This is a good time to do that. So that, like I said, it's pretty much I'm following the same channels that they're doing also. That's pretty much how I learned.
Hey, Bobby, we have a quick question for you while you have the mic. Why don't you take the mic? We have a question from one of our band directors here, Mr. Sam Richardson, who teaches over at Columbus Alternative. Sam, why don't you unmute and ask your question about the jam session?
Sam, I know Sam. Hi, Sam. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Bobby. What's going on, Bobby?
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Still playing the trombone. Still having a good time.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I know Reggie.
Sam and I go back.
We go back.
He played in the jazz ensemble at Ohio State back many years ago.
Yeah, we got a chance to play together with Gene Walker. But how can a jam session help to contribute to cooperation among people from different cultures and places? The performance part of my life, that's what I'm glad you got into this. It really started before that. It started at a jam session when I moved here. And it was a jam session, and that's where people got a chance to hear me. I got a chance to meet people from the community. It was at Hank's place. And that's where I believe Reggie came through. And if I didn't see him there, we might have been at the Stardust. But I got a chance to meet musicians from all over Columbus. And no matter what race, no matter what neighborhood, if you can play and you have something to say, a story to tell, I think people from different cultures will listen to you because you provided an open environment for people to be able to speak. And I just want to thank you for, that's been more than 30 years ago. But how can, it's been more than 30 years ago. And so you were a big in my career and getting to simulate, not in my professional career, but also in my career as a musician in Columbus, and also being a part of my community, whether it was near East Side, Clintonville, or no matter where. That start happened with you. And I just wanted you to, to give a testimony or anything. But since we're in church, I would do that. But anyway, I can't jam session.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, we had some good times back then, and our jam sessions, they'll probably start up again at some point after we kind of figure out what's going on with this COVID-19. But for musicians interested in learning how to play, you practice at home. You sit in your practice rooms, you practice, but you want to also go out and play. So it's a good way to go to, what you practice at home. It's a good way to take it with you, go out and try what you learned at home in front of people, So jam sessions, there's a big history. There's a long history of jam sessions. Lots of musicians learned even before jazz was institutionalized. We were learning how to play in the streets and in nightclubs. So we kind of still do that. and we try to, stay as safe as possible and not get involved with some other things that you can get involved with when it comes to going out like that. But yeah, we've been doing that for a long time. Thanks, Sam.
So we're almost, sorry about that. We are almost out of time, but I just wanted to unpack a couple things. Reggie said, oh yeah, well you can go to Google and Google these people. You have to ask yourself the question, you have access to music 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the internet. Bobby and Reggie and Quan and I, we old folks, and we had to buy our music. Y'all go on YouTube, and it's available for you for free, but most people spend time watching videos of cats chasing their tails or what kind of ice cream cone the best friend wrote. You have this opportunity to go to YouTube and for free get anything that we had to pay for. But most people don't do that. And it speaks to the fact that sometimes when we have something that's so easily available, we take it for granted. And I don't want that mistake to happen to you. So your study can begin as soon as this is over, and go to YouTube and listen. I've been talking about Love Supreme all day. Listen to Love Supreme. Read about the history of it. Listen to Ella Fitzgerald sing the Gershwin songbook. Listen to Louis Armstrong play I'm Not Rough and Big Butter and Eggman and Cornet Chop Suey and so many others. Listen to every jazz classic. All you got to do is put your instrument in as great jazz saxophone players, and that'll get you going from there. Final thing I'll say is that you probably missed it. Bobby said, oh yeah, for like 30 years I've had a jam session. Well, who started the jam session? He started the jam session. That means that you need to start your own jam session. Because if you don't do it, nobody's going to give you anything. So you have to be a self-starter. Remember before I said you have to be an entrepreneur? That's your spirit. If you want to become as good as Bobby Floyd, you can't sit around and complain that there's no gigs and there's no place to play. Bobby Floyd still has a place to play, even through COVID. He's the only musician I know that has a steady gig. He's the only one. And that's true, Bobby. I don't have no gigs, and I'm going to play with you in a couple weeks, and that's the only gig I'll have. And it's your jam session. It's your appearance at the mansion, where his jam session is now at the mansion, but they put it on Facebook. So there's that entrepreneurial part of being a musician that you have to get that together, and then you've got to get the musical part of the constant and never-ending study and improvement of it. We probably could take one more question if there's one on the chat, and then we have a final song for you. Is there one on the chat we could do? Zach, you got any recommendations? Let me see.
Man, this has been so great. I think if there are no other questions, there's so much, I think, for everybody to think about. Why don't we hear another tune?
All right. We're going to play, it has to be a gospel song. That's what today ended up being. We did one non-gospel song. Can you sing about the light, Quan? Hopefully y'all remember this one. And this is This Little Light of Mine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. shine. Oh, this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. Said I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Yeah, let it shine. Oh, everywhere I go. Said I'm gonna let it shine. Said I don't care what's going on in the world. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Said I don't care if you're gonna sing the world. Said I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. You're gonna help me here if you don't mind. Now we gotta shine.
Shine, shine.
Said shine.
I said shine.
Oh, we gotta shine.
Oh, shine. I don't care what's happening in the world. I gotta let my light shine. Can you have and can you make your light shine?
Said I gotta make my light shine. I gotta let it shine so bright that the world could see how bright my light is. Shine, said.
I know it's dark out there, but I can make it shine.
Oh, I gotta let it. Said I gotta let it shine.
Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine.
Ooh, everybody hit that mute button and give them a round of applause.
Absolutely amazing.
Wow. Thank you so much, Byron, Quan, Reggie, and Bobby. It was so great to finish. To the students, hopefully you realize that the whole theme this week, there's so much we could have talked about playing notes, learning scales, learning chords. We talked a little bit about that, but the thing we focused on is your story and the story that's inside of the music. So that when you're here on Zoom, whether it's in school in your music program, which all of you are going to be joining your music program this year, even if it's on Zoom, or if it's in the Columbus Youth Jazz program when we kick back off in the fall, that you come with the desire to tell your story and stay plugged in, because that's the best thing you can do during hard times. So once again, how about a round of applause for Byron, Quan, Reggie, and Bobby?